Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a woman phoning about an event at a botanic garden. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Listen carefully to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 1 to 4.
Good morning, you're through to the treehouse at the Botanic Garden. How can I help?
Oh, hello. I'd like to book a place on the, Japanese floral art workshop.
Ah, yes. Do you mean our workshop on the 16th?
No, it's on the 6th. Saturday the 6th.
Ah, yes. Got it up here on screen now. Japanese Floral Art Workshop. That's great. You're just in time. We're nearly full. 12 people have already booked a place, and this workshop is limited to 15 participants. It's one of our most popular workshops. In fact, it's the 5th one we've run. And this is the last one this term. There won't be another workshop until next year now.
Oh, great. Thanks a lot. And can I just check the start time? It says on the leaflet I've got here that it begins at 12:30.
That's right. It finishes at 1:30. Most of our other workshops are only half an hour long, but this one is longer. In fact, we're thinking of running some longer ones in the future.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm really glad it lasts for a full hour. I don't think I would be able to come up with any kind of floral arrangement in less time than that, and certainly not in 30 minutes.
Me neither. Now, one more thing. The workshop itself is free, but we're asking participants to pay £5 each just to cover the cost of the floral supplies.
That's fine.
Now, before I book you a place, I'll just give you some information about what'll happen on the day.
Now you have some time to look at questions 5 to 10. Now listen to the next part of the conversation and answer questions 5 to 10.
Basically, it's a real hands-on workshop, so you'll be making your own floral arrangement that you can take home afterwards.
That's great. I'm really looking forward to that.
Now, a couple of important things. Please remember to bring scissors or cutters to the workshop. Unfortunately, we only have a limited number of pairs to lend people who forget them on the day. Last year, some participants ended up using penknives, which are not at all suitable for floral arranging.
Right. I'll make a note of that.
And you'll also need to bring your own container.
Do you mean a bag, that sort of thing?
No, you need a shallow container. Basically, it has to be shallow with a wide base, so that you can use it to work on your arrangement. It can be pottery, wood, plastic, whatever you like.
Oh, of course. I see. I'm sure I can find something suitable.
And when you arrive for the workshop, ask for Elizabeth Macmillan. She's leading the event. She's a really experienced workshop leader. She's been running the event for us for many years, so you'll certainly be in good hands.
That's good to know.
Now, I'll just take your details for the booking form. Can I have your first name?
Yes, it's Lubna.
Lubna. Can you spell that for me?
Lubna.
And your surname?
Awan.
Is that Awam?
No, it's an N at the end.
Thank you. And a contact number, just in case we need to get in touch with you before the workshop.
Yes, it's 0759 830 5321.
Thanks. That's all the information we need. So that's you booked in. Oh, actually, just one more thing. Would you like to be on our mailing list? This means that we can send you information about future events and workshops. All we need is your email address.
Yes, that's great. My email address is lawan25@yahoo.com.
OK, I'll just read that back. LAWAN25@yahoo.com.
Yes, that's correct.
OK, I'll pop all your details on the system and we'll see you at the workshop next weekend.
Thanks a lot for your help. Bye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a woman talking about health and safety when using a computer. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17. Listen carefully to the first part of the talk and answer questions 11 to 17. Hello everyone and welcome to the second session on health and safety. And today we're focusing on health and safety when using a computer. Now, can you all gather round this workstation here? That's great, thanks. OK now. Let's look at some equipment that is specifically designed for safe computer use. Firstly, take a look at this item here. Yes, the sloped slab in front of the keyboard. Does anyone know what it is? That's right, it's a wrist rest. And it does a lot more than take up room on your desk, I can tell you. Well, what does it do exactly? In actual fact, it's specifically designed to support your wrist when you're typing or when you're using a computer mouse. Now, the one I'm holding in my hand is made of foam rubber. Come on now, have a feel. You know you want to. Now, it's very flexible, isn't it? The padding is firm, but it also gives way when you press it, just like this. Here's another type, by the way. This one is filled with gel. Now, like the foam rubber type, it's got a firm surface, but when you press it like this, it gives way with a little spring. However, not all wrist rests are flexible like that. Some are made from hard plastic. That doesn't sound like a comfortable support for your wrist, does it? So, not to be recommended. OK, so we know what kind of material we're looking for in a wrist rest. But what else do we have to think about before we choose one? Now, look again at the foam rubber wrist rest here. you can see that the slope of the wrist rest and the height and the width too match the front edge of the keyboard here. And there are no sharp edges. Look, it's really nice and smooth. Now, we know it's a busy time for you all at the moment. You're busy with assignments in between the hours you're spending browsing the net and going on social networking sites. Well, just think about how hard your wrist has to work. So, using a wrist rest like this one can really help in a number of ways. First of all, it helps you keep your wrist straight when you're using your computer. I'm demonstrating this now. As you can see, my wrist is neutral and straight rather than bent up and down. See what I mean? Now, it can also provide padding for your hands. It works in much the same way as a cushion, so it makes your desk much more comfortable. Now, please note, I did say cushion rather than pillow. We don't want you students to be too comfortable. Another advantage of a wrist rest is that it stops your hands from dropping off the edge of the keyboard. A wrist rest can also relieve tension and soreness in your neck and shoulders. And how does it do that exactly? Well, it removes the weight of your arm from your shoulders and neck altogether. So there are a lot of benefits, aren't there? However, most people never learn how to use a wrist rest correctly. In fact, leaning your wrists on a wrist rest for long periods can put a lot of pressure on the undersides of your wrists, just here. Now you have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen to the rest of the talk and answer questions 18 to 20. So, to make the most of your wrist rest, it's really important to follow a few basic tips. First of all, make sure you place your wrist rest approximately 1.5 inches away from your keyboard, like this. And never ever place your wrists directly on your wrist rest. Instead, place the palm or ball of your hand on the rest. And another thing, don't use the wrist rest all the time, particularly when you're typing. Instead, your hands should be on the wrist rests during break periods, so between your typing sessions. This will avoid you putting strain on your wrists and fingers. Now, does anyone have any questions before we move on to computer glasses?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear two psychology students talking about an essay. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hey, Simon. You look down. How are you getting on with your essay for Professor Jones?
Not very well, I'm afraid. I can't seem to get my head around it. I mean, it's such a wide topic that I really haven't got a clue where to start.
Oh, poor you. I'm actually free now, so I can give you a hand if you like. You have until the end of this week, don't you?
Yeah, I have to hand the essay in on Friday afternoon, but the professor wants to see my proposal on Wednesday morning.
Today is Tuesday, so that's tomorrow. You had better get a move on. Let's have a look.
Thanks. I'm just trying to brainstorm some ideas, but I haven't got very far.
Let me see. Well, firstly, I think that writing your ideas in a list like that really isn't going to help. Remember how we were taught to do spidergrams at the beginning of the year?
Diagrams?
No, not diagrams, spidergrams. It's supposed to mimic the way our brains process information, rather than simply expecting them to come out in some kind of logical order. They're also sometimes called spider graphs because of how they look, like a spider.
Okay, I'll start over again.
Right. Now, our essay is on people's motivation for participating in extreme sports. There are two sides to this, really. The external and internal influences.
Right, so let's look at the external influences first of all.
So, what kind of things make people want to do extreme sports?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the amount of media attention on the topic. There are always stories about people taking part in the latest craze.
Exactly. Now, let's think about this more carefully. Why does so much appear in the media?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it.
Well, according to the published materials out there, it's a reflection of modern culture.
Of course. Yes, you're right.
Now, what about the factors that come from within the person?
I suppose the most obvious thing to say is the adrenaline rush.
Right. But what else?
People would want to test their limits, which is a psychological need that all humans have.
And there's one more thing that we haven't added yet.
What's that?
What all animals do naturally. Compete, of course.
Right. It's the element of competition that drives all things to be the best. Now, why didn't I think of that before?
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
How much background reading have you done on the topic?
Actually, none at all. It's really bad, isn't it? But I just haven't had the time with my part-time job.
I know what you mean, but honestly, it's so much easier once you've read around the topic a bit. Did you get a copy of the suggested sources? Because if not, I've got one here.
No, I didn't. Thanks, that's a great help.
I tell you what, you write down the main points and I'll read it out.
Okay, go for it.
The first one's by a guy called Hans German, and it's called Crossing Borders. It's a research project that was carried out on around 200 participants of extreme sports. It's a really interesting read.
Okay, what next?
The next book was written by a man called Richard Bell and is called Motivation Theories. It gives an overview of thrill-seeking and why people choose to put their lives in danger.
Is it long?
Yeah, it's quite weighty. Why?
It's just I really don't have very long before the essay needs to be in. So, is there anything on there that would help me more quickly?
Well, I did find a podcast on the topic. I didn't write down the author's name, but they are called The Mind Files, and it's also about the theories and principles, but obviously doesn't go into as much detail as in a book.
That's absolutely fantastic, Therese. How can I ever repay you?
Oh, I don't know. A coffee, maybe?
Of course, my treat.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear part of a lecture about conserving natural resources. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Shall we start? Right, now, where did we get to last week? That's right. We were going to begin with a look at 3 of the world's most pressing problems, what has caused them, as well as looking at some of the many possible solutions. Top of the list is air, water and soil pollution. With an ever-increasing demand for food came the increased use of chemical pesticides during the late 1960s. Now, some of you may say that this isn't the ultimate root of the problem. Overpopulation is, but you would be missing out a very important step. The increase in population didn't in itself lead to the pollution of the air, water and soil. What caused the problem in the first place was a move away from traditional farming methods, thanks to advances in technology. Ironically, the answer comes from past farming practices. Well, thankfully, the revolution has already begun. Organic farming and a respect for nature's cycles is the key to solving the problem. In second place, though inextricably linked to the first issue, is the problem of the natural resource depletion. By that, I mean not only fossil fuels, such as oil, coal and gas, but things we all too often take for granted, like fresh water and essential trace minerals in good quality soil. The main culprit, or guilty party here, is wasteful past management practices from those in power. Even though we knew that there were only finite supplies of traditional energy sources, we behaved like we didn't. The phrase that springs to mind is, "Ignorance is bliss." But what about a solution? Again, the process has already begun. We need to invest in new, less polluting technologies in our vehicles, which will also help with the first problem, and use more hydrogen technology. That is, produce car engines that run on water. That's the way forward here. Not good drinking water, of course, but saline water, which is in abundance. Finally, we come to the last problem, that of unequal wealth distribution. Every year, more and more land on the planet is owned by fewer and fewer people, which is in direct contrast to the world's growing population. And the reason for this? Quite simply, the greed and corruption of those in power, I'm afraid. The only way to solve this one, and it's a biggie, is for the countries of the world to work together in solidarity rather than against each other in isolation. Now, although the solutions I have presented are viable, it doesn't mean that they're without their own potential problems. Firstly, making these kinds of changes is going to be expensive in the short term as we invest in the research and development of new technologies. Secondly, there's also the issue of popularity. It's the politicians of the world who need to make these changes. But they also need to keep their voters happy, and may be reluctant to bring in new practices that may prove unpopular among voters at election time. But the biggest and most important challenge is making the world's monetary system fairer, by making things more equal and balanced for all. This includes adopting ecological practices that benefit all, not just a company's profit sheet. We need to begin an age of corporate social responsibility. Only then can we truly move forward.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.